skills. But how do we do that? Well, this afternoon, we're diving deeper into the policy sessions, focusing on that first big theme, skills. How are we going to do that? Well, we'll first have two amazing prominent speakers for you lined up to give an introduction on the theme of skills. And first up is, in a while, going to be the European Commission Director-General for Energy, Ditte Jørgensen. And later, we're also going to hear a keynote speech from Mr. Bertrand Piccard, explorer, psychiatrist, and also the chairman of the Solar Impulse Foundation. Some of you might have already seen him in the previous plenary session. Now, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Ditte Jørgensen.
Thank you very much. Thank you. I have really been looking forward to coming here today. I've been looking forward to the European Sustainable Energy Week. We've been looking forward to the Youth Day, and I've been looking forward to talking to you about skills. And I've been looking forward to seeing you again, Bertrand. So I feel very lucky to be part of this opening of the skills discussion with you. Thank you very much for joining, those of you who have traveled, those of you who are online, and also those of you who are close to home in Brussels, but who have joined us for this afternoon session. Sure. Thank you very much to everyone who have been involved in organizing. I know it's been very busy days and weeks leading up to this, and so really glad that it's now happening. We're here together, and we're here to have an interesting and important discussion. As you've said, the focus is on skills, lowering our energy bills and increasing the skills we have so that we are ready for the green transition, that we can accelerate the green transition and make change for the better for our energy security and for our climate security, because the two go together. So I would like to, at this intervention, to say a bit about that, how we are approaching it at European level, what have we done and how do we see it ahead. And I'm sure you will have interesting things to say at what comes ahead, because you have visionary ideas and approaches, so I look forward to hearing that. I was just about to say the rest is history, in the sense that we launched the European Green Deal in 2020. It followed a very clear mandate in the elections to the European Parliament in 2019, not least thanks to a very lively public debate around climate change and significant activism that really brought these green transition topics and the climate topic to the forefront. And with that clear mandate from the European Parliament, we launched the European Green Deal, setting out a pathway how to become climate neutral in 2050, and what do we need to do to respect the Paris Agreement's target of 1.5 maximum increase in global temperatures. We agreed that in order to achieve that, we would need to set targets for 2030, and we would need to increase our ambitions for renewable energy and energy efficiency, most importantly. And then, of course, we had the energy crisis, with the Russian invasion into Ukraine, with increasing energy prices, with risks to our security of supply, risks to our security. We had to take a very brief moment to stop and look at what do we do? How do we address this energy crisis? Our response was Repower EU, looking at how we can, making a plan for how can we reduce our dependence on Russian fuels, and most notably Russian fossil fuels, natural gas first of all. And it was clear that in order to do that, the recipe aligns with and has to align with the European Green Deal and the energy transition. So we need to step up our efforts, our investments into energy efficiency. We need to save energy, reduce our consumption. We need to accelerate the deployment of renewable energy across the European Union and make sure we have the infrastructure that is required for that. And then, of course, where we need molecules in the energy system, we have to make sure that those are clean molecules wherever that is possible, or at least that they are not Russian gas molecules, but that they are molecules from other suppliers, diversifying our supplies. And so with our Repower EU, we further increased our ambition in terms of energy efficiency, we further increased our ambition in terms of renewable energy, and the co-legislators, the European Parliament and the Council, where European energy ministers meet, have supported these increased ambitions, so we now have a very clear pathway towards 2030, and at the same time we're assessing, then what about 2040? Where do we need to be in 2040 in order to be climate neutral in 2050? And of course, for all of these things, for renewables, for energy efficiency, for new technologies, for hydrogen, for system integration, we are going to need skills. And one of the big challenges we have in the transition is we do not it's not clear that we have the skilled workforce, the hands and minds that we need to achieve the objectives we have set ourselves. And so this year has been marked for the European Year of the Skills, really looking at what are the skills we need for the twin transition, the digital transition and the energy transition, the green transition. And that is a priority for the European Commission and a priority for the European Union more widely. We see that there are labour shortages in some sectors. We see that we need to reskill some of European labour force or upskill some of the labour force. We need to make sure that we are sufficiently interesting that we can attract the right skills in the clean energy transition, so that we can accelerate that deployment and those changes that are necessary for the climate crisis and for the energy crisis. So we are developing and implementing initiatives that will help address the skill gap as quickly as possible. It's central for delivering on the Green Deal, and it's central for our economic security, our energy security, and our climate security. We're of course not starting everything over again. We already have skills policy. Member states do a lot to build the skills and to make sure they have the labour force that is needed. But we can work much more closely with member states. We can work more closely with stakeholders. We can debate and discuss and listen to you. We can work together to establish the right programs and the right training so that we have the workforce we need. One of the things we do is that we work on a skills large-scale partnership project, which will entail cooperation from many different sectors, including the private sector, that can address what are the challenges on the key industrial ecosystems in the green energy sector. And I know that this afternoon, some of these partnerships will be presented to you. I'm sure that will be interesting. One example of that is the one on renewable energy production. Again, an absolutely critical component, both of REPowerEU and of the European Green Deal, and one where we need a skilled workforce to help accelerate that. This partnership on onshore renewables was launched just a few months ago in March. It aims to empower workers with the skills so that we can manufacture and manage the renewable energy technologies. You will hear from the industry, you will hear from workers, and you will hear from vocational training institutions this afternoon. So I hope you will enjoy that. We also have a skills dimension of other parts of both REPowerEU and the Green Deal, and just to mention one of them, heat pumps are absolutely critical for our energy efficiency. Heat pumps are significantly more energy efficient than gas boilers, and so we need more heat pumps across Europe. We've seen a significant increase in the rollout, in the installment of heat pumps this last year. In Poland alone, a growth by 120%, so really, really impressive. And as part of our plan to increase the share of heat pumps in our heating systems, we are going to need skills. And so we have had an interesting high-level event on that as well to increase and accelerate the rollout of heat pumps across the European Union. We also see scope for more partnerships, more engagement in energy efficiency. Energy efficiency is both the immediate energy savings, but it's also about technologies, and I think you know that better than anyone, technologies that can allow us on all our daily actions or the industrial processes to save energy if we make good use of the technologies that are out there. And for that, again, we need skill. And then, of course, we need digitalization. So we also have a partnership on the digitalization of the energy value chain. That is being finalized for the launch. And the reason we need the digitalization is that the more digital use of our energy system is also the more energy efficient one. There are really good technologies out there, and we need to make the best use of them. And we also have, of course, and you may know that, a partnership on offshore renewable energy. It was launched already a few years ago, and it's being implemented at full speed. That has committed to support a qualification process for new jobs in the sector, and there are many good jobs in the green energy sector, and it can contribute to further upskilling, training, and what is needed for us to reach our targets on offshore renewable wind in particular. And then, of course, we are working with member states who have their national plans, their national energy and climate plans, which also covers challenges and opportunities and plans for how to skill up and how to make sure we have the workforce that we need. And in addition to that, there's of course also the Recovery and Resilience Facility and the plans that member states have updated in order to reflect the repower aspects of of their recovery and their resilience, and making sure that the investments under the recovery and resilience plans also help us repower and reduce the dependence on Russia by greener and more efficient energy. So there's a lot going on. I haven't even yet mentioned the net zero industrial plan and the skilling aspect of that, which is a really important aspect in strengthening our capacity to manufacture and strengthening our competitiveness across the European Union. All of this has one thing in common, and that's you, youth, your future, how you engage with us, what choices European youth make in their lives, where do they want to work, how do they want to contribute, how do they want to contribute to slowing down climate change, how do they want to contribute to the green transition. Everyone has skills that are useful, and so the question is for each of us to find our path, our place where we can make that contribution. So I hope you will all see this afternoon's event as an inspiration, as a question of how can you contribute, what do you want to do, and how do we together accelerate the transition, the green energy transition, the energy efficiency transition, and our move towards climate neutrality in 2050, because we are more secure. If we address the climate and energy crisis together, we have access to more affordable, low-cost energy if we are greener, and we have access to that sustainable energy that is necessary for the climate crisis, and the more secure energy, which is the one we grow at home with wind and sun and other renewable sources. So with that, thank you very much, and over to you, Bertrand, please.
Thank you, Ditte. You show how much the European Commission is doing, and it shows the need of skills to implement all this policy. Now, I would like to remind you something. When humankind switched from the year 999 to the year 1000, there were a lot of people who thought it was the end of the world, because humankind could never live more than 1000 years after Christ. At the beginning of the Industrial Revolution, people thought it was the end of their life, because they were not adapted for the new industrial requirements. In the year 2012, you had people committing suicide because 2012 was the last year of the Maya calendar, and they thought it was the end of the world. And today, we have an energy transition, and we hear people who believe it's the end of the world, there is no future, there is climate change, it's going to destroy the world, and you have students who don't want to go to school because they think it's useless to learn something if they will not survive. So we see that every moment of change is a moment of fear. And the best way to address fear is to change the narrative. We need to go from this old narrative that protection of the environment is something difficult, something expensive, something sacrificial that nobody will like to do, into a narrative where protection of the environment and fighting climate change is something exciting, something that brings people together, something that creates jobs, and something that is economically profitable. Why is it important to speak about economic profitability? It's because it is the only way to bring in the economical and industrial and financial world. If we only speak about the beauty of nature, we will not bring the key decision makers into the game. We need to speak the language of the one we want to convince, which is job creation and economical profitability, and maybe even re-election for the political people. So we want to show that it is this way that will be able to bring action. And action, for me, is the best therapy for eco-anxiety and eco-depression. You see this youth who believes there is no future because they don't know how to participate into the change. So they go to school and they don't learn about all what Ditte has been explaining on the energy transition, on the new technologies, on the new opportunities. So we make an education that is turned on the past this is what we have always done, and we don't make the education on what has to change, what is the motivation to change, the trust to change, into new actions, into new profession, into new activities. And I think we have a huge responsibility in doing that. The problem now is how to address these children, these students, because there is a huge lack of communication. Huge lack of communication between us speaking in this room and the children who are anxious and depressed in their school and don't know what to do. So first we have to define very clear messages. And secondly, we have to bring them to the schools and the education systems. I think what needs to be said as message is the fact that there is a need for completely new jobs that will offer a very stable future. This is important. You know, I remember when I was a student, there were people coming in the different universities saying, these are the jobs we need. So there were the food industry coming, the marketing industry coming, the automotive industry coming, and they were just hiring the students at the end of their studies, showing what were the future jobs. We stopped to do that. We stopped to do it because there was too much unemployment, which means there were too many people on the market of work, and it was easy for the big industries to recruit. Before, there was a lack of skills. Then there were too many people on the market, and today we are again in a situation where there's a lack of skills for the professions of the future. And we have to start again to go into the schools, to go into the universities. We need all the associations promoting biomass, solar, wind, geothermia, energy efficiency, renovation of building. All these associations, they need to communicate much more and say, we need people on the skilled level. And this is not only for universities. We have to stop to believe that manual work is a second zone work. And how can we do that? I think we should create a new word, a new definition of these jobs, like something like technician of the future. Wouldn't that be a great value for these students or for these children? They will not say, I'm a plumber in heat pumps. I'm an installer of solar panels and I'm with a screwdriver. No, they would say, I'm a technician for the future. And technician for the future would include all these jobs that we need for the energy transition. So we have to make people proud of being part of it. We need to change this narrative and just show what the future is. The future is not a disaster. The future is what we make out of it. And I think we have to stop with this idea that we are the victims of the past, otherwise we will always complain. We have to show that we are the actors of the future, and we're going to have the future that we will build. And the youth is part of this construction as much as we are responsible for creating these skills to be the actors of the future and to have this new job, technician of the future.
Thank you so much, Bertrand, Piccard, and also Ditte, Jørgensen. First, you indeed, thank you for outlining all the partnerships that you're up to, all the big plans that the European Commission has and is already rolling out, of course. And also, Mr. Piccard, thank you so much for all the inspiring words involving youth, trying to get them, to get the right stories out there, to mobilize them, to find the right job of the future. Technicians of the future, I think that's one that'll stick with me at least for the next 3 days. So thank you both.
I hope more than 3 days.
Yes.
At least for 3 days, and then into my pocket for the rest of my life. I hope with my old paper cards that I am not a moderator of the past, but let's hope indeed that this will stick for more than 3 days. I'm sure it will. Now, for the session hereafter, we've got 2 policy sessions diving deeper into the theme of skills. So stick around here in the Gasperi room if you want to learn more from various eminent speakers. Also, Mr. Piccard is going to join one of the panel discussions here. But of course, feel free to go to any other session. Also for you watching online, you can keep watching. And for everyone, I'd really like to encourage you for the policy discussions to join the discussion using Slido, hashtag EUSEW2023. You can join the room there and ask all your questions or put down your comments so we can stir the debate about the future of skills and the technicians of the future. May I have a grand applause again for my 2 speakers. Thank you.
Thank you, Ditte.
And then see you at 2:30. Thank you very much.